Welcome into our week 2 matchup between the Toronto Staraptors and the San Diego Drampas. Both teams walking in here 1-0. San Diego, the cream of the crop, the top of the league, standing alone with 14 points after last week's win. But Toronto not too far behind them, tied for second as of right now in the league with 10 points and an undefeated record. Toronto bringing in Charizard, Sneasler, Rotom-Wash, Incineroar, Garchomp, and Venusaur, and San Diego with Feraligatr, Audino, Sableye. I am forgetting the name of this Pokemon. That is on my behalf. Sylveon and Chimecho. But nonetheless, we will get started here. And we are going to vibe nonetheless. So, here we go. Toronto bringing out the Charizard and the Venusaur. San Diego bringing out Sylveon and Sableye. And thank you to the chatter in chat, the coach from Seattle reminding me Aerodactyl. I apologize. It has been a long 24 hours. For those that know, you know. But nonetheless, we are here. Week 2 VRL. Let's get it started. Let's get it popping. All right, and there goes instantly into the Charizard Y Mega for Toronto. Going to set up that drought for 5 turns. This is another series that I believe firmly, wholeheartedly will go all 3 matches. And the instant protect. The Sylveon will also protect for San Diego. What does Venusaur and Sableye have in store? Sableye gonna set up that rain dance, getting rid of that drought right away. All right. So a lot of setup and setup action here to start the essentially this first match. This is a match going in when I was analyzing it and going over my notes for week 2. This was on top of one of my most rated matches at the top of the hour. And to be honest, 2 contenders in this league and teams that like to play at a certain type of pace. Toronto gonna withdraw that Charizard, gonna send in the Incineroar. Instant the -1 to the attack on both the Sylveon and the Sableye. And here comes out the Feraligatr, light screen by the Sableye. And here comes a Sludge Bomb onto the Feraligatr. Does get the poison pick. What a draw. And you got to think, if you're San Diego, you got out of there with the Sylveon not taking that poison damage, which is such a huge turn of events. Now, we got to think here. What does San Diego do here in this moment? They do have the light screen up, but what do they do to counteract this Incineroar Venusaur combination? Just as deadly as the Mega Charizard Y. And smart enough on Toronto's end to switch out the Charizard Y due to the fact that the rain is set up. They are going to withdraw San Diego, their Sableye, and send out their Aerodactyl. It's going to exert its pressure. The Feraligatr is going to Mega Evolve. We stand a king using Mega Feraligatr. One of very few teams here in the VRL using Mega Feraligatr. The fake out onto the Mega Feraligatr. And the Sleep Powder on to the Aerodactyl. Folks, moves are being made by Toronto. Toronto is not seeming to be scared of San Diego here. One of these 2 teams will be walking out 2-0. And of course, every point matters. Every point matters when it comes down to the standings in the Victory Road League. We want to make sure that you are setting yourselves up for success. Back out to the Charizard. It is going to reset up that drought and get rid of that rain. What a form. The Giga Drain onto the Feraligatr. And the Aerodactyl is going to stay asleep. Body slam onto the Venusaur. Almost a one-hit KO. Gets the paralysis. Oh, my goodness. And the poison is going to leave for Alligator with just 9 points remaining. Both teams in very familiar and similar situations right now. However, you would have to argue that San Diego is probably in a little bit more of a desperate situation due to the poison onto the Feraligatr and the sleep on to the Aerodactyl. The protect coming out for the Venusaur for Toronto. And that Aerodactyl is going to stay asleep. Here comes the Solar Beam from the Mega Charizard Y. And I think, folks, that's going to knock out the Mega Feraligatr. That is a... Oh, no, they decide not to. They decide to go to the Aerodactyl and Rock Slide. Venusaur is going to protect itself. It's going to hit this Charizard Y. And it's a one-hit KO. Instant knockout. The Charizard knocked out. That is a point, though, for San Diego here. But a point to Toronto, getting that poison draw. And they will knock out that Feraligatr. What a turn of events. I think we're in for a good one. Similar to the San Diego-San Jose matchup, give me 7 games between Toronto and San Diego. And here comes the Sableye and the Incineroar for both sides. The Intimidate hitting the Sableye. If I'm not mistaken, that's now -2 on attack and a -1 onto the Aerodactyl. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, what do both trainers decide to do? That is the question to be had. That is the question to be heard. Both trainers deciding to think about it. Both coaches trying to outsmart each other with their best move possible. Of course, the Venusaur is on the field, but is paralyzed. Could potentially get an attack. Here comes the fake out onto the Aerodactyl. And the Rain Dance is going to come from the Sableye. Interesting choice nonetheless. And the Aerodactyl is finally going to wake up, but it's going to be flinched. The sleep batter is going to go to Sableye now. Now Sableye's asleep. What moves from Toronto is happening here are smart. They've done their homework. They've done their studying on San Diego. Interesting nonetheless, folks. And you got to think, who is coming next? Who? And they're going to withdraw that Sableye. They're going to send back out that Sylveon. And here comes the Rock Slide. It's going to be enough to knock out the Venusaur. So that is another point for San Diego here in match 1 of this best of 3. Now, we have to think here. What is possible? Here comes Garchomp on the end for Toronto. Kind of dangerous knowing that Sylveon is out on the field. But still, nonetheless, show must go on. And there goes the Rock Slide. And the Aerodactyl's gonna avoid the attack. Is gonna put some damage on to the Aerodactyl. Here comes the Tailwind from the Aerodactyl to make their team just a little bit faster. And the Hyper Voice, enough to knock out the Garchomp from San Diego. That's another point to them. And there comes the Citrus Berry onto the Incineroar. Of course, neutral damage due to the fact that it is a fairy type. And there is a point. The Tarkus Lariat coming from Toronto. Another point to them. Folks, we are almost about even. This is gonna come down to the wire. Remember that Sableye is asleep. Very interesting nonetheless. And two of these teams will be in heavy hitter matchups next week as well. San Diego taking on the Denver Gigaliths. Next week, Toronto taking on the San Jose Chomps. Here comes that Hyper Voice onto the Incineroar. And that is 4 match points plus a point for winning the match. Folks, San Diego takes the first game here in the best of 3. as we get ready for match 2. Toronto going to bring the same team. San Diego going to bring the same team. So there's nothing new to go over here. But does Toronto have what it takes? There were a couple good moments. As we see, they have 2 points so far in this match. But San Diego was able to knock out those other 2 Pokemon and get those 2 other points that they needed to solidify getting the match win. Now, San Diego is in full favor of winning this match so far. The momentum is fully on their side. They're on track to go 2-0 and stand atop alone of the VRL nonetheless by the end of this week. But does Toronto have an answer to fight back a little bit and get back at San Diego and put themselves into a decent enough position to walk away from this week confident? All right, folks, here we go. Match 2 of a possible 3-game set here in the VRL. And San Diego off with that Chimecho and the Sylveon. And Toronto with the Rotom-Wash and Sneasler. 3 of these 4 Pokemon new on this field that weren't in match 1. Chimecho, a very dangerous mon on San Diego's side, knows how to Mega Evolve and is a very sneaky setter-upper and hits hard. Now, there it is, the instant Mega Evolution that I was talking about from San Diego's end. And there goes the fake out onto the Chimecho. Decent move from Toronto to stop that Chimecho from setting up. And here comes the Hydro Pump, and the Chimecho is going to avoid it, but here comes the Hyper Voice from San Diego. Does a decent enough damage to these 2 Pokemon for Toronto. San Diego trying to get the deal done and walk away from this week 2-0, standing atop of the VRL with enough points to separate themselves from the rest of the pack. And there goes the Protect from the Sylveon. What is going to happen next here is a Dire Claw onto the Sylveon, is going to protect itself. Here comes the Hydro Pump. And the Chimecho is going to avoid the attack and sets up a Trick Room. Very interesting choice when you have that Chimecho on the field, when you could instantly just take out that Sneasler, who is a big threat to your Sylveon. But we shall see what San Diego decides to do here in our Week 2 matchup between these 2 teams. 2 heavyweights here in the VRL. Incoming a Hyper Voice that is enough to knock out that Sneasler, leaving the Rotom on 3, the Psychic from the Mega Chimecho, and that is enough to knock out the Rotom. They are 2 Pokemon away from becoming 2-0. Does Toronto have an answer? Can they steal any more points? If you're gonna go down fighting. Go down getting points on your side. And there comes the Charizard. More than likely setting up the Mega Charizard with the Drought, with the Venusaur on the other side. A typical tactic here within the first couple months of Pokemon Champions release. A common strat amongst most trainers. Now, we must ask the dire question. What does Toronto do to get out of this hole? They are now down 4 Pokemon to 2. The instant protect, no instant Mega Evolution from the Charizard. The Hyper Voice is gonna come out. The Charizard will protect itself. How much damage does this do to the Venusaur? Venusaur is also threatened by that Chimecho on the other side. And incoming, the Snarl onto the Charizard. Interesting choice. And the Venusaur is going to avoid a Sleep Powder onto the Chimecho. A tactic that Toronto is wanting to run. Folks of the VRL, fans, you know what they're gonna do. To my coaches, be paying attention on the strat that Toronto is deciding to bring. 2 heavyweights here of the Victory Road League. Now Trick Room still has 2 more turns set up on this field. What does San Diego do in this situation now with their Mega Chimecho asleep? They're going to withdraw that Sylveon. They're going to send out the Sableye. I wonder. There it is, the Mega Charizard Y. They brought out the Sableye to set up the rain after this is done and over with. Can this Charizard knock out this Chimecho and at least get a point on the board? Chimecho asleep. Here comes the Heat Wave onto it. A one-hit KO. That is a match, or that is a point, excuse me, for Toronto, knocking out the Mega Chimecho, which is huge. And here comes a Sludge Bomb onto the Sableye. Folks, we are knotted up. We are knotted up. What a match. Does Toronto have basically a reverse sweep in them to pull this thing around? And here comes the Sylveon out for San Diego. And here comes the Aerodactyl out for them as well. Does San Diego decide to use a protect their Sylveon against this Venusaur, against that Sludge Bomb that they know is coming? And what does Charizard have in store possibly for this Aerodactyl? Because Aerodactyl is a threat to this Charizard currently on the field. And there goes a protect from Toronto's side onto their Charizard. Very big choice. Hyper Beam incoming from the Sylveon onto the Venusaur. It's almost going to knock out the Venusaur. What is Venusaur's plan? Here comes the Rock Slide. Charizard will protect itself. It's gonna hit the Venusaur. That is another point to San Diego. Now, what does Toronto do here? The Twisted Dimensions will return to normal. No more Trick Room, but the Harsh Sunlight is up for 3 more turns. Does Toronto have what it takes here to knock these 2 Pokemon out and take us to a match 3? The Rock Slide onto the Charizard. It is not enough. Folks, that is it. San Diego is going to walk out here the winners of week 2 and stay undefeated. Welcome in, folks. We have Matt, our coach of the San Diego Drampas, here after a second win here in the VRL. How are you feeling, Matt, after that win? Oh, my apologies. I was muted that time. I apologize. That's on me. Welcome in, folks. We have Matt of the San Diego Drampas here after a second straight win here through the first 2 weeks of the VRL. Matt, how are you feeling after getting that second win here through the first 2 weeks?
Pretty good, pretty good. This was a calculated win.
Okay. Now,
this is the only battle I was confident in, if I'm being for real.
Okay. Good word of choice. Nice boast of an ego. I love to see it. I love to hear it. Now, what was your mindset going in? I kind of hearing a glimpse of it here. But what was your mindset walking into this match?
I was mostly just trying to work around his Sneasler and his Venusaur, because those two could have done a lot to me.
Okay.
But apart from that, it was just take him down and I guess try to set myself. I don't know, to be honest.
Well, that is a fair choice and a fair judgment. How do you feel now being 2-0? You now stand more than likely at the end of week 2. You will have a total of 24 points and you're 2-0, which puts you far and above most of the rest of the league. How are you feeling with this big of a lead? Are you not worried about it, or are you just on to the next week?
I'm confident. I'm only worried if others are going to catch as to how to beat me, because I feel like it's pretty easy once you realize what I'm trying to do.
Okay. Now this is awkward, but I have to ask you, your week 3 matchup is against myself, who is Denver. How are you feeling walking into that? And say whatever's on your chest, whatever on your mind. I will take no judgment right now.
A little bit nervous because you do know about Pokemon, so I have a feeling you actually know what my team's trying to do.
Fair point.
Yeah, I'm a little bit unsure about how our battle's gonna go, to be honest.
For sure. Well, it was exciting. Thank you for giving us a match that felt like it was 3 matches all in one, but realistically, you got the job done. I was a little nervous for you there in that second match because once he was able to knock out your 2 Pokemon and bring out your Sylveon and the Aerodactyl, I was like, you might have a shot, but luckily you were able to pull it out.
Trick
So
Room saved me.
for sure, that Trick Room did save you. But congratulations, congrats on the win, and we will see you in week 3.
It's you week 3.
All right, folks, you heard it here. That was Coach Matt of the San Diego Drampas here in week 2. They will play Denver in week 3. Denver currently sitting at 0-1. They will be playing later today. And Toronto moves down to 1-1. Still was able to pick themselves up 4 points, but they will be playing San Jose, and San Jose is a very, very tough team. Depending on what goes on in their match later today between Pittsburgh and themselves, San Jose, it will be a very, very fun time. So we will see Toronto taking on San Jose next week in week 3 of the VRL, and San Diego will be taking on the Denver Gigalus in week 3.